In the 90s, hip-hop hit the airwaves. Black male rappers owned the Billboard charts and radio airplay like it was their birthright. The music scene became dominated by gold chains, low-hanging jeans, and large shirts. It was like spoken word, only with a faster rhythm and better frizz. But only a few dominated the crown: Tupac, Biggie, Jay-Z, Nas, and among all these male rappers, Foxy Brown. Every generation has had a popular female rapper in the 90s, and that rapper was Foxy Brown.
Come on. What made you how has she inspired you?
The same way she inspired every other female. I mean, you know what I'm saying? She always held her own with the dude.
And that's what I love about her, man. She is, and I quote unquote, and I say she is the greatest female rapper of all time.
Foxy Brown was the queen of rap. Her rhythm and flow were unmatched, and record labels scrambled to sign her. But with the fame came a lot of dark energy. Unfortunately, Foxy Brown could not keep up. There are not many stars who have lived a very tragic life like Foxy Brown. Her rise to fame was quite smooth and sweet sailing, but that ship soon hit a large iceberg and sank like the Titanic.
A lot of near-death situations where I feel like, wow, this can be I'm kind of starting to identify with this. This is scary.
Trust me, you don't know half of the juicy details of Foxy's life. From men taking advantage of her as a teen, to a car crash that almost killed her, to overdosing on pills, and even to a rap beef that led to an attempted murder in several lawsuits. Foxy Brown has been through it all.
Facade. You get on stage and you.
If you were born before 1974, you probably lived to see the debut of the 1974 movie Foxy Brown. That movie introduced a female character played by Pam Grier, who would rock the airwaves for many years to come. You might also be familiar with these words. When Foxy Brown came to town, all the brothers gathered around, because she can really shake them down. This character was audacious and daunting, but also incredibly sexy. But she was a fictional character. 4 years after this movie debuted, the girl who would give this name more life was born. Her name was Inga DeCarlo Marchand. Inga Marchand was not born a raunchy rapper. She was a little girl who played with dolls and had cute dreams. She was born in Brooklyn, New York on September 6, 1978, to a middle-class family. Contrary to her lyrics, Inga did not grow up in the hood. Her family was comfortable, and she even attended a really good school, Brooklyn College Academy. Her parents weren't rich, but they made enough as preschool teachers and welders.
Video stopped, and I had a chance to be on top and on the bottom.
Do you know how many?
She was a pampered little girl with 2 older brothers. Her mother was Judith, the cousin of Grammy-winning jazz musician Marcus Miller. But Inga never had any interest in music. In fact, while in school, she wanted to be a criminal justice attorney. Both of her parents were immigrants from Trinidad and Tobago, and they initially were a stable 2-parent household until her father left to find some milk when she was only 4. So Judith raised Inga and her brothers alone. Inga herself said about her father, "Daughters should have a stable father to look up to. Tells you are beautiful. I did not have that.
I need you to come stay with me. Right. I'm not okay. Just
You're
because
not
you
okay.
see."
Without a father to guide her, Inga soon went over to the other side. Inga herself confirmed she never grew up in the hood, but was drawn to it. She loved the tough interior of the kids who grew up in the projects and loved to hang with them. It was around this time that her love for rap developed. She fell in love with the legend Roxanne Shante. So when she was only 12, she started rapping and writing her lyrics. She became so involved that at the age of 14, she skipped school to hang out on the block. And so began her tragic story. Young Inga, barely out of junior high, met Jack, who was also known as Haitian Jack. Jack was a well-known street fighter who made a name for himself in the city. Not a very positive one, as you must have guessed.
In terms of morally, spiritually, I got you.
Oh, well,
and you
spiritually.
trusted, and you trusted because it's kind of hard.
Right, yeah, my trust, and I think that's kind of.
And to crown it all, he was significantly older than her. How significant? Very significant.
Level has always been very, very, very just like, I'm a different person. I almost...
She said that she met him in East New York. He even took her to Jacob's the first time they met. She also said,
Fucked up, right?
And I'm pulling up.
Yep, and she did get bad. She was young and impressionable, and soon took to doing everything she saw her new friends do. She went from a soft little princess to a diva who hung with questionable characters. In an interview, Inga said, "I never had a real hard life. Never really worked hard. But for relationships, I've been in violent relationships. I've been 14, messing with 30-year-olds. Inga has never really explained how violent these relationships were, but they soon shaped her greatly, and they most definitely contributed to her downfall. And one of her boyfriends, Corrupt, did confess to hitting her while they were together.
Foxy Brown, she hits you and you hit her back.
All right, that's automatic.
But before then, she had a relatively easy life. Her rise to fame was pretty easy and smooth sailing, as people were easily impressed when they discovered she had talent. She had always loved music, but her newfound love for rap soon took over everything else. She became so involved that she would hit local spots after school and rap on the open mic circuit. Nope, her stage name wasn't Foxy Brown then, it was an underwhelming Big Shorty. She was so good, she impressed everyone who listened to her. She even secured a deal with Capitol Records. After some time, she changed her stage name to AKA, but was eventually dropped from the label around 1994. Inga was only a teenager, but was already knee-deep in the hurdles and disappointments of hip-hop. Her life changed one night when she was just 15. She was rapping at a local talent contest and caught the attention of Trackmaster's production Tone and Poke, who were in the audience. The two men were so impressed, they decided to put her on the LL Cool J's, Mr. Smith's album they were working on. They decided she would sound great on the Posse Cat remix of I Shot Ya, and wasted no time in getting to her. Everything happened so fast, and before Inga could know it, she was in a studio that night recording her verse. But just like Cinderella, Inga had to scramble off in a rush because she had an exam the very next day. But the glass slipper she left behind her iconic verse was so good that they put it on the album. They even reached out to her to get a better name because they didn't think her current stage name, AKA, was good enough. So Inga thought about it until she came up with Foxy Brown.
Foxy Brown joins us this evening. Foxy.
Hi, good evening.
Nice to see you.
There was still one problem. Inga did not own the rights to Foxy. One woman did, Pam Grier.
Tell everybody, I think I have an idea where the name Foxy Brown came from, but I want you to tell everyone.
From Pam Grier.
What could she do? Well, Inga did the right thing. She used her new connections to get in touch with Pam Grier and asked if she could be the new rightful owner of the Foxy Brown. Inga must have expected her request to be rejected, but she instead received an iconic response. Pam Grier said, "The only way you can have it is if you elevate it. I have done damage to this name. In the 70s, a dude wanted to be with her, and every girl wanted to be her. That is the bottom line. I want you to make Foxy Brown bigger than my Foxy. When they say the name Foxy Brown, they should think of you, not me." Damn, that was an incredible honor from Pam herself. She could very easily have begun a war and held on to the name, but she didn't. Unfortunately, Inga soon learned that not so many women are that kind and generous. Those were also some large shoes to fill.
That should have been the most enjoyable time of my life. And it just wasn't. I mean, I've never been a partying person. I've never been a person to really like the limelight that much, even.
But that was still a few years down the road. Now, Inga hugged the name to her chest, and she did embody it. She dropped hardcore lyrics that had everyone in the booths clutching their pearls. It was at this point she met someone whose name is still tied to her to this day. Inga met Sean Carter, also known as Jay-Z, when she was just 14, and they became good friends. She met him through a family friend, DJ Clark Kent. Jay-Z had been popular in the underground scene for years, but was struggling to break into the mainstream scene. He had already founded Rockefeller Records, but Foxy was still the more popular artist. Riding on this wave, she tried to get signed to Bad Boy Records, but Diddy rejected her. Still, she wasn't fazed. She was just a teen, but she was bold and audacious, like the original Foxy. You would never even have guessed that she had insecurities, and she did battle with quite a few. She said that growing up, being darker was not the in thing. Everyone wanted to be light-skinned, and she wanted it to be. But her light-skinned mother tried to make her feel better, and she was really light-skinned. Her mother must have succeeded in her efforts, because Foxy is one of the few rap girls to not tweak her looks. And she didn't have to. By 1995, she was already one of the hottest artists on the scene. She had recorded Touch Me, Tease Me with Case and Mary J. Blige, and that song was used in the Nutty Professor movie. You know what that means? Mainstream fame was now slowly sneaking on her. This was something Jay-Z wanted badly. People around the city knew he was quite talented, but that was it. He had no major appeal, so no major label wanted to give him a deal. But Jay-Z soon came up with a plan. He and Foxy had mad chemistry, so he decided to profit from that. So when she was just 16, he dropped a single, Ain't No, featuring Foxy. HTTPS, UTJU, BAB, ECOT, 0 E N 3 EO, Kiki, HRS, ICRP, GUI, LIBE, MI, UTXPCA1, 012, 022. In that song, she rapped about things a young T shouldn't even know about. But she did it so well, and she was so believable. Their chemistry was super believable too, and everyone thought they were an item. Everyone still thinks so, and even though several close people have now implied it, the two artists have never confirmed it. In fact, Jay kept speaking to her like a little sister. Her lyrics were raunchy and brazen, and the crowd loved them. The crowds loved her. In an interview with Fed, she said, "When Ain't No was popping, I had to leave my recording album to go on the road with Jay because the promoters wouldn't book him without me. I wasn't getting anything, but it didn't matter. Jay and I really came from Sean and Inga. It wasn't anything but love." Foxy had become so popular, she was now in every important rap conversation. Her only competition was one person. Yep, that was of all people, 22-year-old Lil' Kim. But did you know? These two queens started off as friends. Unfortunately, we know that did not last very long, but it was a beautiful friendship while it did. Kim shouted out to her several times. It was no wonder that they liked each other. They were more similar than different. They both moved with tough Brooklyn crews, and they both rapped about sex and money. These two queens had many people writing angry reviews and calling for their heads, but they were not fazed at all. Even Brandy commented on Foxy's calling herself Ayo on records. Well, Foxy clapped back graciously. Foxy and Kim represented a new era in rap, where women boldly voiced their desires and needs. The men had been objectifying women in their rhymes for over a decade, and it was time to take that power back. Kim even connected her to AZ and, of all people, Nas. She called her one morning at 4 a.m., and she had AZ on the other line. AZ wanted Foxy to spit a few bars for him, which she did, right on the phone. He flew her to Los Angeles to meet with Jimmy Levine of Intercope Records to get her signed to a deal, but it didn't work out. But she and Nas remained close friends. He even gave her a new nickname, Nah. Everything changed in 1996, and this is how it all began. Foxy was now so popular that 3 record labels were begging to sign her. One of them was the Bad Boy Records that had rejected her. Yep, Diddy wanted her now. Isn't it funny how the tables turn? But while Puffy was calling from Bad Boy Records, Russell Simmons was calling from Atlantic. And even Def Jam wanted her too. All their offers looked juicy and sweet, and all Foxy had to do was sign the dotted lines. Foxy was confused, but she finally signed in March 1996. But she would soon come to heavily regret it. She might have signed to Def Jam to spite Diddy for rejecting her, but his retaliation wasn't funny. The thing with Foxy's downfall, it came suddenly and everything happened all at once. 1 minute, Foxy was a teen star who had the world at her feet and had become bigger than Pam Grier's Foxy. The next, she became just another tragic story. It all began with her debut album, Il Na Na, which she released after she signed to Def Jam. You would not understand the incredible show of sportsmanship Kim displayed there until you learn that Foxy's album came only 7 days after Kim dropped hers. Lil' Kim dropped Hardcore on November 12, 1996, and just a few days later, Foxy dropped Il Na Na. And as if that was not enough, Foxy wore the exact same dress as Kim on her album cover too. The two had made a pact to stick to each other, but with such mindless coincidences, it was only natural that that pact melted off like melted butter. It certainly didn't help that Il Na Na did so well. It debuted number 7 on the Billboard 200 album charts. If the title did not give it away, it was too raw and raunchy, especially for someone so young to be spitting the lyrics, but that seemed the trend for the female rap in 1996. She was enjoying the success of her first solo album, when in January 1997, she was hit with her first tragedy. She was arrested and locked up in North Carolina. What happened? According to the Village Voice website, Foxy was accused of spitting on 2 Holiday Inn employees and even threatened to hit one of them with a fishbowl for simply failing to locate an iron she requested. Later, she made her situation even worse by missing her court appearance. Foxy received a 30-day suspended sentence and was further punished with hours of community service. Just a month after this, in February 1997, the issue of The Source came out with Foxy Brown and Lil' Kim on the cover. The cover title was Harlots or Heroines. It was a boss move by the two ladies, but this suddenly became the last time the ladies collaborated on anything. Michael Gonzalez had interviewed them for the magazine, and he later told XXL that Kim was so nice and almost like a little sister, but Foxy was a diva because she demanded they rode in a limo instead of a Lincoln Town Car. Following the success of the edition, Kim and Foxy Brown were offered $500,000 to do a joint Thelma and Louise themed album, but the two had already stopped speaking to each other. Why? Kim Osario, former editor-in-chief of The Source, said, "I have gotten mixed versions of the story. One story that I remember is the packaging of the album. If you go back to both of their albums, you will notice they have the same outfits. I remember hearing that one had borrowed the outfit from the other, and that led to them not speaking. That sounded a little believable, but we don't know who actually made the lending. Still, there are several other outfits the other could have used." Foxy Brown, on her own end, said the beef did not start between her and Kim personally, but rather the people around them. When Foxy Brown was eventually persuaded to go to the studio to record her part of the album, Kim never showed up. The beef looked like a mere fallout until it metamorphosed into a full-blown war. But more on that later. In 1997, while Foxy was still coming to terms with losing a friend and being arrested, she found herself in a group. The Firm. The group consisted of Nas, Foxy Brown, AZ, and Cormea. The Firm first came together for a song on Nas' It Was Written album titled Affirmative Action, with gritty and raw lines. That song did so well that the featured artist and Nas decided to form a group. However, their first and only album was a huge flop. For one thing, by the time the album was out, Cormega had been kicked out by the group and replaced with Nature. Their debut album was released in 1997, and it received terrible reviews and disappointing sales. They disbanded the very next year, and that was it from them. But this short-lived union was enough to cause lasting damage. There were rumors that she and Jay-Z had fallen out, but these remained rumors until Foxy herself confirmed it. And is it any surprise? Jay-Z and Nas were sworn enemies at the time. Jay must have thought her move to partner with him was a large show of disloyalty, but Jay-Z claimed he wasn't pissed at it. Well, no one believed that. Nas and Jay had one of the sickest rap wars in hip-hop history. They came after each other time and time again until Nas ended Jay with Ether. It was so bad, Nas' ex-wife, said he wouldn't even want her to say hi to Jay. It is rather suspicious that Jay would fall out with one of his best friends after she made an album with Nas. Whatever the case, they two now had beef on their hands. They had gone from being hip-hop's Bonnie and Clyde to not even speaking. Jay even introduced a new girl to the world that was running with his crew, Emile. She was featured on Jay-Z's 1998 lead single for his Volume 2 album. And by 1999, she was signed to Jay-Z's label, Rockefeller Records. Feeling replaced and hurt, Foxy would say, "It hurts when I see him, 'cause I want to hug him, but nothing is the same. He wanted to replace me, but got laughed at." Jay even claimed Foxy was jealous of Emile and tried to hurt her. But this was hard to believe because it was also around this time that something beautiful was happening to Foxy. Love. She had been in many heartbreaking and toxic relationships in the past, but this one seemed different. In 1997, she and West Coast rapper Kurupt became engaged. They seemed so taken to each other. Foxy was so in love with him too, she even skipped shows to be with him. Foxy released her second album, China Doll, the next year in 1999. By this time, Foxy was now 21, and that album became her most successful body of work. It debuted at #1 on the US Billboard 200, making her the second female rapper to achieve that after Lauryn Hill. She heavily promoted the album and even landed on the cover of Vibe, but that soon led to another tragedy. The journalist, Danielle Smith, ignored her album, but instead detailed much about Foxy's relationships. She even claimed Foxy had said some not-so-nice things about Kim. Foxy not only denied ever saying that, but she also took matters into her own hands. She allegedly found Smith in a restaurant and tried to assault her. Foxy was back in the news for all the wrong reasons. While she was still getting whacked by the press, another drama ensued. Kurupt called off the engagement. Why? The details are even juicier. Kurupt told Breakfast Club that he heard rumors that Foxy was sleeping with DMX. Okay, let's slow down. Foxy sat with, of all people, Wendy Williams, and denied ever cheating. But she added more twist to the story. She said Philadelphia-bred female rapper Eve had started the rumors. But why would Eve do that? We would never know. And so Foxy had new beef on her hands, and this one spanned for years. Kurupt didn't wait around for long. He quickly moved on with the late singer, Tina Reid of the R&B group Black, which made people wonder if that wasn't the plan all along. But who knows? There might be truth in the rumors because Keith Murray spilled about him and Foxy while she was still engaged to Kurupt. He also confirmed the rumor about DMX. Foxy has now lost 2 friends and has been caught assaulting people twice. She has also lost a music group and her romantic partner. Things couldn't get worse than this, could they? Yes, they could. In March 2000, Foxy almost lost her life. For some reason we might never know, the brakes on her Range Rover failed suddenly, and she crashed into a fence in Brooklyn. In an interview with Wendy Williams, she said her life was saved by a strange woman who helped her. According to MTV, she was hospitalized and ticketed for driving on a suspended license. In December of that same year, her fans were shocked when news outlets divulged that Foxy had checked herself into the Cornell University Medical College to undergo rehabilitation treatment for an addiction to painkillers. Fans must have had mixed feelings, because even though they never knew she had an addiction, they were happy to know she was getting help. But if everyone thought this would mark a changing point for Foxy, they were very wrong. Her beef with Kim suddenly entered a different gear. They went from not speaking to sending shots at each other through their rhymes. Lil' Kim and her crew started it. They fired subliminal shots at Foxy, but fans immediately caught on that the jabs were aimed at Foxy. In November 2000, Foxy fired back too on the Capone and Noriega track, Gang Bang. If your album Pushback, or when it hits the streets, because it's still weak, it still sounds lame. My name still reigns. She even shaded Diddy, and boy was he mad. Her little rhyme must have hurt Kim so much too, that in 2001 at the Hot 97 radio station, she and her crew confronted Capone from Capone and Noriega's camp. The fight was bloody, and shots were even fired. In the process, one of Capone's associates sustained gunshot injuries. Fortunately for Foxy, she wasn't at the incident, but she suddenly recognized that the beef was becoming too toxic. Even Jay-Z and Nas had never gone head-to-head, except in their lyrics before. She tried to call a truce with Kim, but Kim, who was supposed to be the calm one, refused. Lil' Kim was later sentenced to a year in jail for lying under oath and on the stand about what she knew about the shootout. Foxy tried to move on, and in 2001, she and Sprague, a Jamaican dancehall star, got engaged. That same year, she released her next album, Broken Silence. She featured her boyfriend on the first single, and it was a success. The album debuted at number 3 and later became certified gold. But her issues with her label finally came full circle. She found out that Sean Combs, Diddy, owned 50% of her contract. Somehow, he had gotten a deal with Def Jam and practically owned her. Foxy felt so angry and blindsided. She was in constant dispute with the head of Def Jam, Liar Cohen, and accused him and Sean Combs of both illegally trading her recording masters. While this was happening, she was locked up for punching a cup in the stomach of a staff member at Jamaica's Norman Manley International Airport in 2001. In 2002, she created her own joint label with Def Jam called Il Na Na Entertainment. She started off the label with her brothers, but in 2 years, they couldn't sign any artist no matter how they tried. In 2003, she accused Liar of sabotaging her 4th album, Il Na Na 2. And in an interview with Wendy Williams, she revealed that her album had been shelved. Finally, she left Def Jam in 2004. But this decision to cut out from these two powerful men came at a cost. In the issues that ensued, she became so stressed that she had a miscarriage. And to add even more salt to her injury, she and Sprague ended their relationship in 2004. 2004 would probably count as Foxy's worst year, and with good reason. Her temper issues got even worse, and before the year ended, she had a misunderstanding with manicurists over a $20 bill charge. She was so violent that she was given a 3-year probation and even ordered to take anger management classes. Well, good things began to happen by late 2004. Jay-Z suddenly became the CEO and president of Def Jam, and he immediately called for a truce on their tiff and asked her to join the label again. Jay even promised to push her album and get her back to the top where she belonged. Not only did they reconcile, they had their first performance together in years for his legendary Fade to Black concert. They were even doing press to celebrate the reunion and even appeared on the cover of XXL magazine along with Kanye West and LeBron. Foxy was so happy to gain her old friend back. She began recording music for her new project, including Fly With Me. Unfortunately, her tragedy was only just beginning. The morning after shooting for XL, Foxy Brown woke up and couldn't hear a thing. The TV was on, but no sound was coming out. She ran outside and to her car and even tried honking the horn and calling out to people, but she still couldn't hear. In an interview, she divulged how hard it was to tell Jay she had gone deaf. Foxy Brown was diagnosed with sudden hearing loss, and she confirmed it in a press conference. But Foxy was tough, and she tried to fight it. She used a hearing aid to help cope with the loss, and she kept recording. She even had someone tap the beat on her shoulder so she could keep up. But it got so bad, she was even booed from a stage. The DJ proceeded to make fun of her by playing a Lil' Kim track. In June 2006, she went through surgery, and most of her hearing was restored. MTV announced that her surgery was successful, and even though she still needed to wear hearing aids, it was restored well enough for her to complete her album. She was so excited, she promised her album would be out by the end of 2006. But that never happened. Why? Well, there were rumors that Jay allegedly didn't like any of the songs in the album. He was not impressed, so couldn't agree to push the project. But those were just rumors. Whatever the reason, that album never came out. Instead, in February 2007, Foxy got locked up for throwing hair glue and spitting on a beauty supply store employee. As if determined to ruin her life even further, she began dating a man named Timothy Collier, who turned out to be a small-time pimp. When Foxy finally out, she broke up the relationship, but she almost regretted it later. Timothy was so angry, he called 3 of his workers to jump Foxy. According to the New York Daily, these women ripped out her weave, stole her purse, which contained $500, and even took her hearing aid. Foxy called the police. Angry, she was cooperating fully with officials until she suddenly stopped and even refused to testify, so all charges were dropped. Even while dealing with these, she was still fighting to keep herself out of jail. In August 2007, she fought with a neighbor who accused her of blasting her stereo throughout the neighborhood. Foxy threw her BlackBerry cell phone at her, and the phone knocked her neighbor's tooth loose. The neighbor was put in for a restraining order and was granted. Not long after, she was arrested for talking on her phone while driving. To make her situation even worse, she tried to give false information to the officer who stopped her, and according to MTV, she was even driving with a suspended license and registration. In August 2007, she was finally thrown into jail for her incident with the neighbor. Of course, it didn't help that she had boldly left New York without permission, even after being told not to. She was hit with multiple probation violations and served 8 months behind bars. 1 week after being released, she pleaded no contest to the beauty supply incident and was put on 6 months probation. Her cases were a lot. Remember that she had been put on probation after the nail salon incident. Well, she had violated it, so she was again sentenced to a year in prison. In October, she was again sentenced to 76 days in solitary confinement after fighting with the prisoner while in jail. She was taken out of solitary after 35 days of good behavior and was finally released from prison on April 18, 2008. Now free, she finally dropped a record. But even that was completely overshadowed by rumors that she was engaged to Rick Ross. Rick Ross never denied they were an item, but he made it clear that he was only engaged to the money. In July 2010, Foxy was busted yet again for violating her neighbor's restraining order. According to the New York Daily News, Foxy reportedly didn't like how her neighbor looked at her, so she cussed her out, lifted her skirt, and mooned her. Oh no. Foxy was arrested again, but this time, the charges were dropped, and the case was dismissed. Legal issues had followed her everywhere since 1999, when she was arrested and charged with failing to appear in court after assaulting and spitting on 2 hotel employees in Raleigh, North Carolina. In February 2011, she was supposed to perform at a New York fashion show, but Foxy messed it up. Yep, she messed up indeed. According to TMZ, she even locked herself in a bathroom until she had to be escorted out. The very next month, she performed at a Royal Caribbean cruise ship and made a nail appointment the day after. Well, Foxy being Foxy, showed up for that appointment 3 hours late. According to TMZ, the nail techs refused to work on her, so she became violent, and security had to remove her from the salon. She was ordered to remain in her cabin unit until the boat docked in the Cayman Islands, where she was escorted to the airport. How shameful. Foxy had a terrible temper. Her anger and reputation soon hurt her career. Soon, every time you heard her name on the news, it was almost never about music. But could you blame her? She was a huge success, but she wasn't truly happy. She even had to consume painkillers to cope. She had grown in the limelight, and everyone had taken advantage of her. But there was more drama. In 2013, an uncredited blog claimed to have overheard Foxy say at a baby shower that Jay-Z was her first, and that he gave her an STA. She was also alleged to have said that he's attracted to transsexuals. It was even revealed that she had a sex tape starring both of them in her possession. Slightly after this revelation, her house was reportedly robbed. Foxy denied to TMZ that she ever said those things, and Jay-Z too denied he had been in Foxy's box on his 2013 song, Picasso Baby. Well, What is true and what isn't? Even Nas called Jay-Z out during their beef. This is why it's hard to believe releasing an album with Nas hadn't caused their beef. But this was a nasty accusation, especially since Foxy was only 15 at the time, and Jay-Z was already in his mid-20s. Foxy, on her own, continues to hint at nothing. She said she and Jay still speak. She only hinted that what the public saw was a fluke. But Wendy Williams didn't think it was a fluke. Wendy tried to bring it up with her. She shut it down. Foxy might have been a disappointment, but she was still one of the best to ever do it. She even inspired Nicki Minaj. In an interview, Nicki Minaj called her the most influential female rapper. And it is not difficult to see why Nicki liked her. She was the complete package. She was even the first rapper to incorporate her Caribbean roots in her music. Vice described Foxy Brown as an icon of black female empowerment. She was strong, sexy, outspoken, funny, and far superior to her male counterparts. Well, in September 2017, Wendy Williams suddenly revealed that Foxy had given birth to a baby girl. A few days later, Foxy herself confirmed it with an Instagram post, taking everyone by surprise. She also posted Sprague, her ex, and captioned it, "Daddy." Her baby girl, Sion, was born in March 2017, and now all Foxy does is gush about her. But her stint with music and rap isn't over. In August 2018, Foxy Brown marked her first feature in over a decade on Nicki's Queen album, appearing on the track Coco Chanel. In 2020, she linked for the first time in forever with The Firm on Nas's King's Disease album, and fans were so excited. Currently, her net worth is $3 million. Her daughter is definitely living life. Through it all, Foxy Brown has managed to carve out her own legacy and has remained an icon, not just in hip-hop,